Welcome to Come and See, your podcast for finding truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by All for Jesus Living Waters Ministry. With host and founder Richard Case and co-host and retreat leader Kathy Ricconi. Join us every weekday at this time to discuss news, spend time in the Word, and receive answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. And now your host, Richard Case.
Well, good morning, Kathy. Here we are, Monday. We're excited about the covenant and expressing the covenant. And this is the first of June, June 6th.
Oh, wow.
If you believe that. We're taping a little bit ahead of time because Kathy's got a few things like graduation with kids. I'm going to my grandson's graduation, high school in Dallas, and then we take off.
And then to Croatia for a couple of weeks,
yeah,
right?
We're all very excited about that. And have to get all the logistics worked out with still on the airplanes you don't have to wear a mask anymore, but
into certain countries. There are certain countries that they are still enforcing it for.
And we have to get tested. So even though like I'm going from America to Croatia, and Croatia is released all restrictions. So just come normal, and you just get off the plane.
Oh, that's nice.
That's nice. However, we have, because to get to Croatia, there's only a couple places in America where you can have a direct flight, but from Denver particularly, I have to have a stopover. Actually, I'm flying from Dallas because we're going to Joshua's graduation.
Oh, that's right.
So we have to go through Munich. And Germany is, even though literally I would get off a plane, I don't even go through customs because I'm not getting my stuff. I have to get off the plane, get on another plane. Well, you have to be tested for COVID.
Oh, interesting. Very interesting.
I don't have to for Croatia.
Just because you're passing through.
Because I'm passing through. And so I had to work with all the leaders who are coming over. We have 18 both weeks that make sure that you check it out.
Right.
Because even though
they get your results in ample time and all of that.
Yeah, because you could literally say, you think I'm going to go to the airport because Croatia doesn't require it. But like we found out Germany does. So we try to get on the plane to Germany, couldn't get on. They wouldn't let us on. That could be a problem. So we got to deal with that. And of course we got all the it's a lot of work to get everything organized over there with, getting transfers and restaurants that will take us.
Right.
Europeans don't,
because it's a large group.
They don't like big groups generally. And then what they would like to do is we'll order one thing from the menu and everybody gets the same. And it's like, no, we're not doing that. That's why we're coming here, is to enjoy the local cuisine. So we have to find restaurants that are willing to do that. And it takes quite an effort.
You and Linda have taken on quite a feat, but I know it's going to be a wonderful blessing to everybody who's there.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. And I know you had a great time. We haven't had a chance actually to have you report.
Right.
You went to Turks and Caicos. And tell us what happened and how.
Yeah.
Cool,
it was it was a fantastic trip. And as you know, you've been there before. It is a stunningly beautiful island, and the people were every bit as beautiful as what you said they would be. I remember I think you shared on the podcast even that, didn't you say it's like 60% Christian there or something like that? Yeah.
Lots and lots of churches.
But boy, the people were just so genuine and truly, honestly, they were grateful for tourists to be back there because that is such a significant part of their economy. Yeah. But it was interesting. We got to spend a lot of time. You know how I am anyway. I love to hear people's stories. And so at any given spot that I had the chance to, I was listening to what people were doing. And, we had a Hobie Cat captain from Haiti, and just hearing his story, how he had lived there for 13 years and he was sending money back to his family and would go back and see them every so often. And, and a lot of our, there were plenty of locals too that were working at the resort, but there were also several people from Jamaica and from the Philippines, interestingly enough, even though that's so far away. So it was interesting just to see how that transpired. Something I was actually really impressed with is the Sandals Resort owns beaches, which is where we were. The beaches family resort, so it's an all-inclusive. And talking to the people there, you'll laugh at this. Like talking to the masseuse, I was getting a massage on the beach, and it was so nice just to sit with the breeze blowing and have the ocean right there. But anyway, as I was talking to her, she shared even that they actually, the entire island had closed down in 2020 from March to November. Airplanes were not even allowed on or off the island. So it literally completely shut down. And what was really cool, though, is that Sandals actually did not lay off a single employee and continued to pay them for that time, March to November, before they were open, which I was impressed, because I thought about, how grateful they truly were, grateful to have us, have tourists back, because their livelihoods so depended on it. We thought things were tough back here. Whole different ball game down there. And honestly, there was a little bit of a heart check in that of, do you see this, Kathy? There's, there are my children all over who I am working to provide for and love. And in every facet, I don't just watch certain ones, I watch for all of them, and there's just a sweetness in seeing God's provision for his children everywhere. So that was fun. But it was just, the whole trip was phenomenal. It was very refreshing. Dan and I both would get up in the mornings, and you could go, if you've never been before, take the towel clips. That was a little trick we learned from a neighbor. Take towel clips, and because I'm an early riser, I could go save a beach chair for everybody and go sit and just have some sweet time with God, watching the sun come up and hearing the waves roll in. And there is just something about being in nature and a beautiful place that makes that time so special. And God really used that time, particularly just to minister to my soul, and just really kind of told me, hey, just enjoy being with me. What's it like to just be in my presence? And alerted me to pay attention to little things all along the way, examples that he gave me that I know I'll use in teaching, and some things too, and just ways that he showed off a lot while we were there. So sweet time with family. Anna and all of us really enjoyed it. Dan enjoyed it too. So
what was the
and I do have some good illustrations that I'm sure will come in at some point.
What was the water like? Was it warm, pretty warm? And
it was really nice. I don't remember now. The pools, they were keeping around like 84, 85. The water, I know couldn't have been 84, because I noticed it. Like, I did have to get used to it. I had to get my shoulders in. But I've got to guess it had to be like probably 77 to 80 or so. So it was nice. And we had, talk about God's favor. If we had gone the week before was literally rain every day. The week we were there, the high was 80 every day. The low was like 75 every day. And we did not have a single, we just had perfect weather. We had sunshine the whole time. And and I will say I gained like 5 pounds while I was there, because the food was so phenomenal.
What was the nicest place you ate? What'd you have?
Oh, my favorite restaurant, I had a lot of seafood. I love seafood. And that was a great place to get it. There was one night that we did this rooftop restaurant called Sky. And you watched the sunset as it came down. And I don't even remember what type of fish I had. I had some seafood, something, and it was really, really good. But probably our most comical evening, I would say, the way the Beaches Resort there is set up, I actually kind of liken it to Disney, in that it has like villages. And so there's a French village, an Italian village, a Caribbean village, and the Key West village. And the restaurants are kind of in keeping. And then there's a handful of other restaurants that are, just kind of unique. Well, there was a restaurant over near the French Village. It was actually a Japanese steakhouse called Kimonos. And I don't think we laughed so hard as we did that night, because just they thoroughly entertained you in the steakhouse and had you singing at the top of your lungs. And I do believe they must think that every American knows the song Sweet Caroline and Don't Stop Believin', because everywhere we went on the resort, somebody would start singing that and people would join in, and it was funny. But lots of fun, lots of good food for sure. Yeah. Beautiful. And we did, Hobie cats and kayaks and glass bottom boats and lots of relaxing and playing and just having fun. So it was good.
Neat. So you suffered over while you were there, I take it, right?
I just suffered greatly.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, we're kind of talking about the covenant. The covenant is, I'm going to bless you to make you a blessing. And the word there is, in a sense, all of life and all aspects of life. So that we tend to, when we think of blessing, typically, we think of financial blessing. And God says, no, it will include that. And financial blessing for all of us would be freedom to enjoy the things that He has for us without having to worry about, am I going to make it, or do I have enough to handle that car that breaks down or that thing that happens. He says, no, I want to be your provider, and I want to be plenty of your provider. It's not about quantity, but when He looks at blessing, He says it's all of life and all aspects of life for you to enjoy the beauty of life, and then to enjoy each other and to help each other and to grow with each other. And so, when you got to go to Turks and Caicos, it's truly part of the covenant. Is yes, I want you to go, and when you go, by the way, let me make it spectacular for you.
Right.
And spectacular doesn't even have to be tied to money. It can just be the experiences like you had of laughing and going on the beach and just being there in the morning and being with God and seeing the beauty of the sunrise and the sunsets. And he says, I want you to take in each piece of life that I have for you, and make sure you're not zipping past it.
Yes.
Or like you go to Turks and Caicos, and I know business guys that they go on vacation, but they don't. They're on their phone all the time. They're on their computer all the time. They're talking to the office all the time. They're fretting because, and they don't just relax and take a breather and say, I'm going to enjoy this space, this beautiful place, which just sounded like you did. So it's a great illustration of the covenant, and it's unique to each of us. So there's no formula for it. It's just you have interest in life, you have desires in life, you have things that thrill you. You said you like being outdoors. Well, part of the covenant isn't going to be making you stay inside in a cubicle all day long.
Right.
Because that's not other people, by the way. I like being in a cubicle, and I like doing the work in a cubicle. Great, God has said I'll provide that for you. So it's all unique, and we've been talking about the aspect of receiving it. We went through all the benefits of it, and now we're talking about how do we receive it. And we've talked about making sure that we remain holy. We separate out from darkness in our inner circle. He's talking about it. You're going to relate to darkness and speak to darkness, no problem. And then to enjoy being with Him. And now we're talking about this aspect of wisdom. He says is receive wisdom so I can guide you onto the covenant. Listen, learn to have margin, and be taught, be willing to be taught in the process. So let's start with Psalm 34, 11 to 14. Psalm 34, 11 to 14.
Sure. It says, come, you children, listen to me. I will teach you the fear of the Lord. Who is the man who desires life and loves many days that he may see good? Keep your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking deceit. Depart from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it.
Okay, so he says, this is in the context of wisdom. Come and listen To me, remember, Christ is wisdom. So,
Right.
and I have placed the Holy Spirit within you, who is wisdom. And and again, the way I think of things, pretty simple. In that he says, listen to me, because he says I know more than you.
Right. Right.
And I have your best interest at heart. So have a posture of listening. Okay, now if you're listening, what question do you have to ask God?
What do you have to say?
What have you got to say? So that in everything, we'll have a heart to listen of what I'm going to speak, both my promise of what I want to deliver and my direction for how you walk in the right place with the right time with the right people for you to receive what I have to say, so that we can fulfill it. And I think you shared a little bit of a story on your way home. Is there was a series of instructions that God gave you, and you wound up with a big airline tickets for the future because of what happened.
Right. Did I share that on the podcast? Did I share that yet?
I think you might have shared that with me, but not with the podcast. So tell a little bit about listen. And he says, as you're experiencing certain things, I know what I'm doing. Let me share with you, and tell a little bit about this story. Even if they heard it before, I'd love to hear it again.
Yeah, I'll try to get the details right without oversharing and making it too long. But essentially, when we first booked the trip, we had booked a particular flight, and then had to change the dates and prayed about it. And God said, yes, change the date, go ahead and add one day to the trip. And we were excited when he said yes to that, because one more day in sunshine and beach, why not?
Why not? Yeah.
So, but again, we only wanted to do that if it's what he had for us. And he was sending us with a group of people that were going to be there that other day. And I think he really wanted us to be investing in them. And so there was some sweetness in that assignment as well. But anyway, we changed our ticket. And because of that, the day that we changed our ticket, there happened to be a nonstop flight available coming back on that Saturday. And that had not been listed as a flight option prior when we had booked it a couple months before. And so that was kind of cool that we listened, and lo and behold, that nonstop there. So we went ahead and booked that nonstop flight in the change and didn't have any penalty for doing that, which was wonderful. Now, fast forward to the end of our trip, we go to the airport and we check in, and go through the security and all of the hoops you have to jump through. And we get there and they don't have a seat assignment for us. And they start to put these little standby tags on our bags. And I'm like, why do we have a green tag on our bag? Why? Oh, well, they're still working out seats on this flight. Don't worry. It's just precaution.
Yeah.
And they said,
whenever the airline says, don't worry, start worrying.
So then we get to the gate and we're like, okay, they told us to come here and you would give us our seat assignment. When I booked the flight, I actually had a seat assignment, mind you. But they said, when you get there, they'll give you one. So we go to the gate, and they're like, I'm so sorry. And Rose was the gal that we worked with, and she was precious. She truly was as helpful as she could possibly be, but her hands were tied. And we got there and she said, I don't know why, I cannot tell you why, but you are at the bottom of the queue, and we've been trying to get volunteers, and there is no one who's stepping up who will take the next flight. And so if no one steps up and volunteers, you guys cannot go. We don't have seats for you. We have seats for one of you, but not all three. And we're like, well, that obviously isn't going to work.
Didn't Dan tell him he'd be happy to help the pilot in the fly the plane?
So we said, that's not going to work. We obviously need 3 seats to get back. And so Rose worked with us, and she said, well, I tell you what I can do. I am going to go ahead, and there is a flight that is 1 hour from now, which it just so happens our friends that were with us were on that flight. 1 hour from now, it does go through Miami. So that means a little longer flight, and we got in several hours later. However, in exchange for you guys taking that, we will give you $800 per person. So we walked out with $2,400 in airline vouchers for that little inconvenience. And it was really kind of cool because, like I said, I really feel like God just said, "Do you see? You were slightly inconvenienced, but I actually gave that to you as provision,
Right.
because we do love to travel, and so having those credits, that's just a sweet gift." And didn't come without a little bit of extra effort there, but he absolutely, I believe to this day, he opened up that flight that day, when we booked it, simply because he knew he was going to turn around and use it to give us credits for future travel and things we have going on this summer.
Yeah, yeah, and it
So,
works. It works all the way around, so that even when that was happening to you, see, a lot of people would just get mad
right.
and demanding, and how dare you do this to me, and you need to take care of me, and and
Right. And
forceful.
Rose was a blessing to us, and we wanted to be a blessing to her. So we
Yeah,
were trying, we wanted to represent Christ well in the midst of that. And that went well for us, honestly.
yeah, and it's always about the truth that is now present.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we are, Father. What do you got to say about this? And
Mm-hmm.
it's see, as he guides us in wisdom, it's not that he says, let me change everything so that you never have an issue. It's that given that you have an issue, because you're in the
Right.
world, and you're going to have trouble, and you're going to have things happen. Like, how did it happen that I had a reservation? I'm at the bottom of the list. Wait a minute,
Right.
that doesn't seem right to me. Yeah, but that's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Now what? Well, how about
Right.
this? How about if I bless you this way? And by the way, yeah, you lost a few hours, but
Mm-hmm.
did that matter? No, it didn't matter. And
Well, and I tell you what was interesting, even in that, I'll add a little more detail. Initially, she said, we'll do these vouchers and we're going to give you a hotel and we'll put you on a flight tomorrow.
yeah,
Well, that would mean re-COVID testing, re-going through security, all of these kind of things because of the hoops you jump through to travel right now.
right.
Um, and Dan and I stopped and we prayed about it. And we're like, we really don't think we're supposed to spend another night here. And so went back and asked us, like, is there another option? Because we don't feel like we're supposed to stay tonight.
Yeah.
What else is it? Well, there is a flight in an hour. Let me see what I can do.
Yeah,
and
yeah. How about
and
that?
God just, but God gave us that wisdom. Go back and ask. There's something else that she's missing. Go back and ask.
Right.
Right.
So he says that, listen, I'll teach you the fear of the Lord, and that is, the word there is great awe, desire to follow him,
Mm-hmm.
because he can deliver so much, and be taught, so that the more that you just experience like you did is like, well, it really benefits me to listen and to be taught, and I think I'll go that way, and you learn it and you learn it and you learn it, and then he says, keep your tongue from evil, your lips from speaking deceit, depart from evil, do good, seek peace, and pursue it. So he kind of puts this all together, and the word evil here in the Hebrew isn't dark, awful, black. It's things that annoy, frustrate, irritate, oppress, and
Well, we
cause you
certainly have enough of those. Right?
you trouble. And so he says, it's going to happen. One is, don't speak it.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of gave a great illustration of that. Is you could have spoken evil. Well, this is annoying me. This is frustrating me. I'm really upset. How awful is this? How terrible is this? Man, we're going to get stuck here. And you're actually speaking the very annoyance that you're starting to encounter. He said, well, don't speak that.
Interesting.
Go the other way. And he makes this interesting statement. He says, depart from evil and do good, seek peace and pursue it. Okay, so basically what he's saying is this: as you're living out the covenant, you're going to have things happen to you. And he said, you're not exempt. You're going to have trouble. You're going to have difficulty. You're going to have things that irritate, frustrate, annoy, and cause you trouble. He said, that's going to happen. And interesting enough, he says, what? Depart from that. Okay, wait a minute. I'm in it.
So how do I depart from that?
I didn't seek this. I didn't pursue. I'm in it. He says, okay, depart from it. Do good, seek peace, pursue it. So that he says, draw a line in the sand, and say, wait a minute. I'm experiencing something that just isn't right.
Right.
I don't need to. And here's what he wants us to do. I don't need to put up with this. Now I'm encountering it. So it's not that I shouldn't have encountered it. See the difference? Is that because people say, well, I shouldn't have encountered that. God should have protected me. He said, no, that's not what I'm saying. When you encounter it, I want you to have an attitude of, well, I don't need to put up with this. I don't need to live here very long. I don't need to experience this for very long. Pursue peace. The word peace is shalom, favor. Pursue favor with God, and say, okay, I'm in a mess. Something's not right. It's not working. This situation happened to me. I'm not going to say I'm not going to live with this. How do you want me to pursue peace? Because you have a path into the covenant to deliver it, and you don't need to stay here. You're gonna experience it, but you don't need to stay there and say, I guess I need to put up with this. He said, no, you don't. And you say, wait a second, something's not right here. So would you give me wisdom, insight, understanding of how I can experience the good, the blessing, the shalom? And he said it's really simple. Say, where you're experiencing this oppression, you just say, well, I'm not going to stay here. And in a sense, you turn and say, well, I got to start looking for God's path of peace. I got to start looking for that.
And that's the departing.
That's the departing. Depart and move. Depart and start pursuing. Okay, well, how are you going to make this good? How are you going to bring shalom to this? What's your path out of this for me to experience it, in a beautiful way, so that I don't stay here and say, I need to put up with it. A little bit. You did that slightly when you were, said, well, you can stay here overnight and go back through all this stuff. Well, that's annoying. And you guys prayed. So wait a second. Maybe we don't have to do that. Father, is there a peace? Is there a path of peace here?
Right.
Yes. Let me deliver that to you, because why? I don't need to accept this. I'm gonna go elsewhere. Now, by the way, you can't act on your own.
Right.
So you can't say, well, I'm not putting up with this, so I'm gonna go do X. No. Pursue shalom, which is what? God's way.
Right.
And it's an attitude that if you're gonna live in the covenant, that you constantly are going to be in situations that are not pleasant, that are not healthy, that wow, this just happened to me, and this isn't good. He said, yeah, I know. Depart from that. Say, I don't need to put up with that. Pursue peace. I got a way. I got a process for you to receive it. Would you be willing to experience it? Because I have it for you. And I can do that all, and that's what the blessing is. I can do that all the time.
Right.
And you start living on the covenant life of God, because you didn't stay and just say, I accept mediocrity. I guess I could just live with this. And is that God? I guess that's God's will for me to live with it. And he says, well, it's not. Depart from there and pursue peace and shalom.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, it really is a beautiful thing. And it becomes a way of living that, and it happens, by the way, all the time, because you wind up in situations where, wait a minute, this isn't right. There's something not right here. I don't need to put up with this. How do I, pursue, what God would have? And this can be in your business, in your ministry. It can be in all kinds of things. Says, wait a second. I just had an experience recently. With my computer laptop froze up. It was freezing up, and of course, when that happens,
it gets so frustrating.
It is, and literally nothing happens, and it just froze up. Okay, so I call the service company, or the computer company. I bought a new one recently, under warranty. Yeah, we'll take care of it. Okay, so they come and replace the motherboard. And said, okay, it needs a whole new motherboard. We're going to give you a whole new motherboard, and it'll be fine. Okay, so they do. And then they hand it to me and say, okay, it's working, it's fine. Okay, well, I go to get on it, and I can't even log on. Because whatever they did, the entire thing shifted everything that I had into it. I couldn't even, it worked, but I couldn't log into it to use it. And then, I call them back and, we've done the best we can. You're going to have to go figure it out yourself. And, of course, I don't know that whole lot about it.
Right.
I keep pushing the button, nothing happens, but again, what I did is I said, wait a second, I don't need to put up with this. God, I'm going to pursue peace, shalom.
Right.
How would you do it? So he leads me to a guy who says, I can help you, and he helps me a little bit. And he says, okay, we came to this kind of this roadblock, and you got in, but it's not letting you do certain things. He said, I don't really know how to fix that. So I'll work on it, you work on it, and come back. And so, again, my attitude is, I don't need to put up with that. I'm going to pursue peace. And so I'm literally just looking at this thing and looking at various things, and God just says, do it this way. And he shows me how to do it. And I called the guy and said, I believe we can do it this way. He said, you know what? That'll work. He said, let's do it that way. And so we did the whole thing over again, a completely different way. Beyond him, he'd never heard of that before.
Right.
But when he heard of it, he said, that'll work.
And interestingly, it's not like you had this great tech knowledge base.
No.
This was definitely God telling
That's
you.
it. I'm just, okay, Father. But my attitude was, I don't need to put up with this.
Right.
I'm going to pursue shalom. There's a way through this so that I'm not frustrated and nobody can fix this thing that I can't get into and work. God said, I know how to do that. Don't worry. So it's an attitude.
I love that's a beautiful picture of really how we even stay in peace, in shalom, in the middle of conflict and difficulties and annoyances and everything else. That's great.
Yeah. And it's not going to resignation.
Right.
Well, okay, I'll just be at peace and I'll just won't be able to use my computer and I guess that's it. And no, wait a second. I don't need to put up with that. God's got an answer. And you always flip it to, I don't need to live in this difficulty. Yeah, it's annoying. It's frustrating. I didn't say, how come I have it? I said, now that I have it, I don't need to stay there. Father, show me shalom. Right. And it's very, very specific. And it took a while, by the way, but he said, I'll get you there. Go after it. That's what the word pursue means. Go after it with gusto. Really go after it with pursuit. So we'll talk more about this as we receive wisdom, but it basically says receive it by drawing that line in the sand and saying, I don't need to put up with things that annoy me.
That's good.
But rather, I'm going to pursue peace. So we'll pick up more tomorrow. We got more about this receiving wisdom, and as you shared the beauty of listening and being blessed.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your wisdom as always, Rich. And if you enjoyed today's podcast, be a friend and tell a friend. Continue on the journey as we go. We're now almost a month into
our
the second year of this. Crazy.
Yeah, talking about the covenant, the blessing of bless you to make you a blessing. So
love it.
Yep. All right.
Have a great day. Thanks for joining us,
everyone.
Everyone.
See you tomorrow. Yep.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Come and See, your podcast for truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by All for Jesus Living Waters Ministry. Send us your questions and comments, and tune in tomorrow for more answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. Remember, God's will is best and none better. His truth brings peace in this world of chaos.